Hi, Beth. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here on our new video series, and I'm very eager to learn about you and hear your story.
I'm so excited to be here and share it. It's
Thank
nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So let's start with the beginning. When were you diagnosed
Okay.
and what were your symptoms?
I was diagnosed in January of 2020, right before the crazy pandemic started. And my symptoms started pretty slowly. Looking back, it was like literally out of nowhere, probably a week before I wound up in the emergency room. I was having some sensitivity, like in the side of like my arm area. And I kept like checking for lumps or something like that. So that was like the start of it, which I know sounds crazy, but once I get to the end of the story, you realize why. Um, and then I'm a hairstylist, and it was like a Sunday. I worked all day on my feet. I didn't notice anything. And I came home, and when I went to go to the bathroom and I sat on the toilet, I could feel cold on one side and not on the other. And I'm like, that's really weird. And I just brushed it off, went to bed. And when I got up in the morning, I was helping my daughter get dressed for school. And when I stood up on my leg, it just felt off. So I went into the bathroom, and my husband keeps like these small little like scissors in there. And I took them and I poked them in my right leg, and I could feel sharp. And when I poked it in my left thigh, it was dull. So I knew something was wrong. And I called my primary care, wound up in the emergency room. They just dismissed me and sent me home, told me it was probably a nerve in my back. And I have a friend who is an NP, and she said, no, something is definitely wrong. I want you to call your primary care and get in for a CT scan. So I did. I saw him the next morning. He did a CT scan that day, got me into a neurologist the following morning. So I was diagnosed within like 3 days. It was crazy, but I was actually numb from my feet all the way up to my chest on the left side of my body. But I didn't know I was numb until they were poking and prodding, and I had like my eyes closed that the doctor told me because it just came on so weird. So mine was more sensory. I was still walking, my gait was fine, I wasn't limping, I wasn't anything. So they did a stat MRI, and I had a lesion on my C7, which prompted them to do the brain MRI. And then I was diagnosed. So a week leading up prior to that, that sensation I was feeling was actually my hand was cold, and my brain was registering it as pain and hurt instead of cold. And I had that probably for like 6 months after being diagnosed, but I got on steroids immediately, and that quelled all my inflammation. And so I didn't get anything worse. I mean, it took time for that numbness to go away. Um, and then that was my diagnosis story. So
It-
it was a whirlwind.
Mm, yes, everybody's is different. And
Yeah.
do you see any lesions on your brain?
Yes, I had 4 lesions in my brain,
Okay, and one on
but
the spine.
and one on my spine. Yeah, and I had no prior symptoms before. They kept asking me like all the questions, like, did you have this? Or did you have numbness? Or all the things. And I was like, no, no, no. And I still just couldn't even believe that I had it because I felt 100% normal. I mean, even when I was in there getting tests done, I still felt normal. So I just didn't take it as serious as it was at the time until they said, you have MS. And then I was like, tears, crying.
Did you know what MS is? Do you know anybody with MS?
Yeah, my ex-husband's cousin had MS. She was diagnosed very young at 18, so I knew what it was.
Okay.
So immediately I thought, I remember one of the first questions I asked was, how long? And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, how long until I'm in a wheelchair? Because that's just what I thought that was going to be my life.
Why she's in wheelchair?
No, she's not, but that's a lot of what you see. I
Yeah.
feel that when I got diagnosed, that's all I could find. Searching social media, that's all there was. It was all negative. And then I started finding people like me that were still working and working out and thriving and living their life and doing their things that I was like, yes, those are the people I want to follow. Those are the people I want to talk to. So I just started reaching out to people on social media, like random messages, like, hey, tell me your story, tell me what you're doing, because I feel that when people hear that diagnosis, that's what they think. Because even today, when I tell people, yeah, I have MS, they look at me crazy. Like, what do you mean? You know,
Yeah,
I'm sure you probably get that too.
it's two stories. So one, I just spoke to somebody, a very dear friend of mine that I met. She's in the book Beating Multiple Sclerosis, and I spoke to her earlier, and I was just telling her that I truly believe 99% of the people walk into the doctor's office to get an MRI, half of them would be diagnosed with MS because everybody has lesions in some, like your symptoms are so not MS, like yes, it's MS related, but there are so many different symptoms.
Right.
If you go to the doctor, they probably find something, and lucky you were diagnosed in 3 days and you knew right away that what you need to change something.
Yes. Yes. Because some people don't get that. I mean, it takes years.
Yes,
Yeah. So that's what I did, was just immediately was like researching. I was obsessed and I couldn't stop.
me too. I was so obsessed. And the other story, so last night I spoke to somebody and she recently went back to see a new doctor because her doctor retired, I think. And
Okay.
this new doctor, when she walked into her office, she said, like, you are not in wheelchair? Like that's how she greeted her. Like,
Oh yeah.
so I completely get when you say that all you find is MS and wheelchair associated the two on social media on the internet. So it's so
Yeah.
nice that you are sharing your story and we are sharing our stories.
Yes. Because I hid it for like 2 years. I just probably a year ago, well, probably longer than that, because I've been diagnosed now for 5.5 years, just started telling people. I remember in the car on the way home from the doctor telling my husband, like, you promise me right now you don't tell anybody, not even your friends. And only close people knew, but I would never share because it's always a horror story. Oh, my aunt had it and she died, or so and so died. Um, so I just never would tell anybody because that was always the reaction. And it took me years to get to where I am today to share now with people, because it's like, stop stereotyping us.
Yeah.
We're not all the same,
Yes.
you
And
know?
what was that shift that happened that now
Well,
an open book?
so I started researching like crazy, like I said, finding people on Instagram and reaching out to them and wanting to know their stories. And so then after that, I found Matt Embry and I started watching his movie and getting the cookbook that they send to you free, and, cleaning up my diet and doing all those things. I knew that I wanted to treat on a more natural route and find out what I did wrong. Not like what I did wrong, but obviously
You can
I
say
was,
what you did wrong. I always say that, and I tr
yeah.
truly believe that I was in some way contributing to this disease.
Yes, the stress, right? I was living in fight or flight probably most of my life. Um, so much stress, like all those things I feel like contributed to it. You know, the foods I was eating, it opened my eyes to seed oils and all the things, to now where I'm like at restaurants, like, what kind of oil do you use? I can't eat that. You know what I mean? But it helped me clean up everything, my diet, even for my kids, opening other people's eyes to like the foods we're putting in our bodies and how we shouldn't be eating it. Um, I'm not saying I'm perfect with my diet. I do cheat and have things, but I try to cook at home and be as strict as I can.
Mhm. And you have a family.
Yes.
It's hard to cook everybody, change kind of a lifestyle in the middle of all this.
Um, you know, my family does miss all the foods I used to make, but I think they're just used to it now. Just eating healthy and teaching them to be healthy because I always tell them like we have bad genetics because I also have like two cancer mutations. It's kind of like having a BRCA mutation. And so I try to tell my kids all the time, like, we have to be healthy. We don't have good genetics. We have to watch what we put in our body. And they're just used to it. And if they don't like what I cook, they just make whatever else they want. Because my kids are, my oldest is 22 and my youngest is 9. So they're like used to it. But my daughter really loves to like eat healthy and all the foods. So that's like a good thing.
Yes, that's for sure. I remember when I changed it was before I was pregnant and my husband was eating broccoli and chicken for like a month. He was not happy.
Yeah, that is so funny. Yeah, I mean, they go through it, but then you learn all these good recipes, right? Because at first, when you're switching up your diet and you're buying like vegan cheese and cottage cheese, you go through wasting tons of money because most of it doesn't even like really taste that good. And then you find stuff that does. So it's all trial and error, I feel like. But then eventually everyone just gets on the bandwagon and they know.
Yes, for sure. Do you use any, or you just learn the nutrition labels? Do you use any applications or?
Yeah, so I started reading the labels. I also have the Bobby approved app. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I have the app. My son
Yeah.
going to the supermarket and gluten-free organic.
Yes, yes.
Bobby
So
approved.
yeah, so I literally scan everything before I buy it because there was tons of stuff in my pantry that I thought was healthy because the label said organic, but it's not. When you flip it over, there's the seed oils, there's vegetable oil, there's canola, all of those like toxin oils that cause so much inflammation in our body that we're eating and we think it's good. So that saves my life. And I tell all my friends about it too. If I'm unsure, I just scan it. Like, is it approved or not? And then if it's not, I just put it back on the shelf.
For sure. Are you on any medication, if you don't mind me asking?
So, no, I'm not on any medication. I haven't been on medication in, it'll be 3 years in July. So when I first got diagnosed, I didn't take medication for 8 months. And I felt very pressured by the neurologist I was seeing to take medicine. It was like every single visit. Do you want to stay how you are? You better take medicine. You got to take medicine. And he even made a YouTube video about one of our doctor visits, like how scared and petrified I was to take medicine because for me, I'm like, I still feel normal. I still feel 100% me. I'm not having any symptoms. Why do I want to put this in my body? Plus, the cancer risks I had, I didn't want to do it. So finally, after 8 months, I did take a medication for 6 months. I was on Tysabri and I was doing infusions every 6 weeks. And then I became JC positive, so I got off of that. And then my next plan, I took a dose of Ocrevus, and I only did that because they say that there is a rebound effect from stopping Tysabri, and I was like scared of that. Like, oh my gosh, what if it throws me in a horrible flare? So let me take this one dose of Ocrevus. But in my gut, I knew, I don't know what it was, but I just felt like I can't take this medicine. I'm going to get cancer. And my gut was telling me not to take it, not to take it. And my husband's like, just take the medicine. I don't know why you just won't listen to these doctors. I'm like, because my gut's telling me not to. It was so hard for me, but I went in, got the infusion, and I was literally crying in the chair like having a panic attack. And I remember the doctor's like, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, well, I feel like I have no choice at this point because I'm scared of a relapse. So I took the one dose and I told him, I'm never coming back. And he said, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. And then 3 months later, I found out that I had a sebaceous cell carcinoma, which is an oil gland cancer on my scalp. I'm not saying Ocrevus caused it, but I feel with my genetic mutations, I already have a fire in my body for cancer, and taking the medicine was just like throwing another log in that fire. So I feel like immunosuppression for me is not an option because I'm more scared of cancer than I am of my MS. And I'm doing good. Like it's been 5.5 years. I'm symptom free. I would say probably the first year and a half, I would still have sensory issues, especially with stress and triggers. But I feel like I've, almost healed my body in a way. I don't know what the future holds. Anything could happen, but I do know that 6 months after, changing my diet and doing all those things, I had a spinal MRI and the lesion at diagnosis that got me there was gone.
I love that.
So I really feel that taking care of yourself with diet and your nutrition all help. And I know it's a snowflake disease and everybody is so different. And this is just what works for me.
Yes. I am just so amazed when I hear other stories about how you listening to your gut was telling you do this and do that, and you didn't follow it, and something happened. But I'm sure 99% of the time you do listen to your gut, right?
Yes. Well, just like how I knew that day, like something's wrong, and everyone always said to me, like when I tell that story, like, I don't ever think I would have noticed that I felt cold on one side and not on the other. But I just know my body and I follow my gut.
I love that. Do you feel like a lot's changed since the diagnosis in your life, other than changing diet, like the things I'm referring to, the way you look at things, like spiritual
Yes.
and
100%. Yeah, I want to live life more. I've traveled a lot more, hiking, biking, doing all those things that like I never really did before. Those things were important to me now that I just like love to do. My husband is not a traveler by any means, but I'm always like, come on, let's go kayaking. Let's go do this stuff because I don't know if I can't do it in 5 years. I want to do it now. I appreciate all the little things, like I wake up and thank God first thing, like, thank you that I'm able to get up today. I could drive my son to school. I can move my body. I don't take any of those things for granted that, you used to do, you know? And I guess like you don't think about that until something can be wiped away from you in a blink of an eye.
so true. Yes. Do you have any fear? Like you mentioned, like 5 years. Have a feeling that you're gonna be okay in 5 years, but do you have any
Yeah,
fear?
not anymore. It probably took me a year to 2 years to finally be comfortable because I did at first. I was like scared of everything. And I could tell the first year I wasn't even myself. Like, I would be like, oh my gosh, if I go out with my friends and do a trip, what if my body betrays me there? What if something happens to me? Or I took up biking during the pandemic and then I was scared. Like, what if I'm riding my bike down the street and my legs give out and now I'm on the side of the road? Who's going to help me? And my doctor would say, stop worrying about a flat tire you don't have. Get on your bike and do the mile and do another mile. Like, just keep going. But it took me a long time to be able to be there. But no, I don't wake up and think about it at all like I used to. It used to consume me. At night, I used to go to bed and think, what if I can't get out of bed in the morning? What if this? What if that? But not anymore.
And
Sometimes go ahead.
you have no symptoms?
No, I mean, I feel like I have normal stuff that I don't even know if it's MS, right? Like, oh, I'm sitting down and my foot fell asleep, or I'm feeling tingling, or if I get stressed, my eye twitches. But then I talk to people who don't have anything and they're like, yeah, I'm like that all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know what I mean? Is
I
it MS? Is it not? I don't know.
I always guessed it for like probably 2, 3 years, and now I'm just like, that's normal. It's part of aging, part of
Yeah,
you cannot associate everything with MS because then you're gonna really go down a rabbit hole, and next thing you're
right.
running to the doctor to go for an MRI, and then you're gonna get a panic attack inside, and then the new lesion's gonna pop
Yes.
up.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I really don't know. Like you said, is it aging? You know, I'm 43 now. So those things, yeah, do come with it. And I notice, like I said, my friends will be like, no, that happens to me. So I don't know, but it took me a long time and probably diet, all the supplements and all that, because I could remember, leading up. Like I had some fatigue too, probably 6 months before I got diagnosed. I remember telling my friend, like, I don't know, I'm sleeping 8 hours and I'm waking up and I'm still so tired. And she'd be like, you're deficient in vitamin D. We're all deficient. But I was like scared to take anything. So, and I was like at diagnosis, I was deficient in vitamin D. So is it because I take my supplements and I'm doing all these things that I feel better? It's so hard to say.
It's so interesting. So before, when somebody would tell me the same thing, I would be like, sure, and I would just brush it off. But when now somebody tells me anything and I hear it from a different person and from a third person, if I hear the same thing from
Yeah,
three people, I know that's a sign and I really need to look into that vitamin D or whatever that is.
right.
Because the universe is telling us, and your friend was
Yeah.
probably like feeling something that you need that.
Right. And then I regret it, right? I'm like, I should have been taking that vitamin D for 6 months. Maybe this would have never came out in my body if I was, because that's all contributes to that kind of stuff, to getting diagnosed with MS.
Yes, but you would never change your diet and you would never taught your children how to eat healthy. So everything happens for a reason,
Right.
my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it sucks that I was diagnosed with it, but in a way, I'm thankful because it does make me appreciate life. I've met so many people that I would have never met if I didn't have this diagnosis. I met like one of my best friends on social media. She lives in Utah and we meet up every single year to see each other. Whether I fly to Utah, she comes to Chicago. Last year we did a mom and kid trip. We took our kids to Universal. And our MSs are completely different. But if I never would have had this diagnosis, I never would have met her, you
Yeah,
know?
I love stories like that.
Yeah. I know. And I feel like we all come together as a community. Whenever somebody reaches out to me on Instagram, I am right there to message them back, just like everyone was there to message me back when I was going through it.
Yeah.
So the community is nice.
Are you part of any MS groups? Do you recommend any?
I feel like I used to be on so many on Facebook at first diagnosis, but now I don't go on as much, so I really don't see. I love Instagram because I love seeing Angie MS Strength doing all her workouts. Like she's such a motivation. Like I love seeing that. Or like when you post stuff, I like seeing that stuff. Like look at what I did. Matt, who does all the 5Ks. And of course, Matt Embry. Like that's what I like to follow and look at now. Jess and I did try to start an MS for the newly diagnosed Facebook group, but it never really took off.
Um,
So
I think it's because it's so hard to find those people. You literally have to stand in in front of the doctor's office, whoever goes to MRI or doctor's visit to find,
yeah,
because otherwise they're gonna have to go through, unfortunately, the same path as you or I did, like doing research and learning it on their own mistakes. And
right.
hopefully not.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice to like bounce stuff off of like other people too. Like what worked for you? This didn't work for me. And then you get new ideas or what did your doctor say? Because my doctor said this. Um, and it's hard to find doctors who want to still be your doctor and not bully you because you don't want to take their medication. I went through that. I was going to my doctor for years and I absolutely loved him and he bullied me. I never went back again. And now I see a neurologist in Chicago who is great. And he's like, you don't want to take medicine? That's fine. You understand the risks. I'm okay with that. And I love that. And he talked to me about diet and doing the things. And I'm like, yeah, I do all of those already. Um, so it's also nice to have that support.
Yes, it's so important to find the right medical team that you can rely on, and instead
Yeah.
of bringing you down, they are actually helping you in a way.
Um, yeah. Did you go through a lot of neurologists or you just had the same one?
I had three different ones, and now finally I actually Angie recommended hers, and
Oh, nice.
yes, we live very close to each other, and she is on Long Island, and she's a functional neurologist.
Oh, that's amazing. Those are really hard to find.
Yes. Yes, they are very hard to find. Is there anything else you would like to share with somebody newly diagnosed or somebody who is trying to live symptoms free?
I would say to the newly diagnosed to not freak out and go down that rabbit hole, that you will be okay. Because I feel like when we first get diagnosed, we all do that. Um, I would say like diet and working out is so important, and that really has to be your medication. And to follow your gut, like you have to do what's right for you. Just because this works for somebody doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So you got to find your triggers for your body and what's working. I do believe that holistically, food can be your medication.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.